A father shot his wife, mother-in-law and 5 children before turning the gun on himself. My name's Emma and I'd like to tell you the case of the Haight family. This case deals with manipulation, domestic abuse and suicide. In 2003, Tasha and Michael Haight were married in the Church of Latter-day Saints. They went on to have 5 children, 3 girls and 2 boys. They were active members of the local community. Michael worked in insurance. They seemingly had this picture-perfect Southern American middle-class life. However, in August 2020, their eldest daughter, Macy, is 14 years old, and she claims that her father is abusive. She states that he has choked her, he's intimidating, and that she's worried that he's going to get worse and ultimately kill her. She states that this has been happening for the last 3 years. Michael dismisses the claims and says that his eldest daughter is just mouthy. The police officer at the time believed that there was no evidence that Michael would become violent, and there was insufficient evidence to bring the charges forward. Tasha, the wife, said that this would be a wake-up call to Michael and didn't want to file charges. In the summer of 2022, Macy, the eldest daughter who filed those charges, has suicidal thoughts. She is very down, and this is all due to her father's behaviour. She wants to go on a church activity out of town, and Tasha is very nervous about letting her child go. She does, however, and Macy goes and has a wonderful time and comes back feeling a lot better. Since those allegations 2 years prior, Tasha has had severe anxiety and has been going to therapy. She's actually made significant improvements with her mental health through therapy, and she actually manages to go out and get her nails done. When she returns from the salon, Michael is angry when he sees that she has had her nails done. He asks how much it costs. It's $25, and he says he's going to have to take food away from the children in order to afford that. Tasha has also been losing weight for herself to gain more confidence. Michael again gets angry and accuses her of having an affair. Michael does go to therapy as well, but this is more to placate Tasha. At this time, Tasha wanted a new dining table. The one they had was incredibly worn, having 5 children, and she went to Mike asking if they could get one. Mike said, "No, it's your fault that you don't have control over our children. I'm not allowing it." So Tasha decides to go out and get all the materials to renovate their old dining table. She was super proud of herself. She had gone out, gotten all the materials, was going to revamp this dining table. She was gaining more independence. Michael did not like this one bit and got very angry. There are many other incidences of how controlling Michael could be. He would take her keys and phone to prevent her from leaving the house. She believed that he was listening in. He had listening devices and cameras throughout the house. When friends came over, she would either speak to them outside or she would run the taps so that he couldn't hear what they were saying. If she texts any of her friends, it was always upbeat, short messages, because she also believed that he was looking at her phone. Despite working in an insurance company where he did make very good money, he gave her a very small allowance to live off. He was even really frugal and controlling. He would cut baby wipes in half. Slowly but surely, this abuse, manipulation and control begins to get more frequent and worse. There was an incident where Michael broke very harshly on the highway for no reason, scaring his entire family and leaving them with red marks due to the seatbelts. He also threw his 7-year-old boy to the ground in frustration. His eldest daughter, he grabbed her head and threw it onto the hard part of a couch. Image was very important to him, so the way he was perceived by the local community was paramount, and he wanted his daughter to have straight A's, to the point where she couldn't even enjoy church activities. She would bring her homework to these events rather than enjoying the fun and extracurricular stuff that they were doing, just to ensure that she would get A's. She became very depressed, and one time she was on the sofa with her mother, who was stroking her head. She was very upset. Michael came in, told her to get up and looked incredibly angry. She said to a friend that the look in his eyes was just pure evil. He would stand over his children and intimidate them. He was very uncomfortable to be around and live with. The children and the wife felt like they were on eggshells constantly. This all begins to come to a head in the latter part of 2022. So in September, Tasha does ask Michael to leave and he goes to live with his mum for a little while. When they return, their marriage and relationship is actually better for a little while, although Tasha admits to friends that it's never as good as when he was away. When he was living with his mum, she felt free, she felt happier. And the family were happier as well. They weren't on tenterhooks wondering when Michael was going to react. December 2022, a caseworker comes back to talk to the family. This is because of the allegations made 2 years earlier. There's nothing really new to report from what I read, but they do say that they're going to do a follow-up visit on January the 5th. Tasha does say that she is concerned about Mike's anger and the way he looks when he is angry. He has threatened to take his own life if she leaves him or make her life a living hell. This caseworker, however, never interviews Michael at the time. I'm not sure why. I couldn't get enough evidence on that. In the latter part of December 2022, this is when everything starts to unravel. It is believed that Michael loses his job at Allstate Insurance due to financial improprieties in his accounting. He states that they let him go because they didn't want to pay his bonus. His wife believes that he's actually been brought out, so he's been given a large sum of money, so doesn't then understand why he drains the children's savings account. A source says that if he was fired due to financial improprieties, that would be the end of his career in insurance. He would no longer be able to practice insurance. Michael, however, is going around telling people that he's going to go solo. So there's lots of contradicting evidence around this, but I think it's generally believed that he was fired due to financial improprieties, which would end his career. So a man who is very conscious about his image in the community has now lost his job. On December 21st, the abuse towards his children gets worse. At one point, Michael is hurling abuse at Tasha and she looks at her children and they don't even flinch. At this point, she realizes that she has to leave. It's become so second nature to her children to witness this abuse that it doesn't even spark a reflex reaction in them anymore. She gets her attorney to draw up divorce papers. So on December the 21st, Michael is served these divorce papers and his reaction is bizarre. He contacts Tasha to ask, "Oh, how are you?" as if nothing's happened. Tasha says, "Did you get the papers?" To which he then reacts and says, "Yes, I want you to leave the house and leave the children with me." She doesn't do that. She takes the children and goes and stays at her mother's. Her children find out that their mother has filed for divorce, and Macy in particular is very excited. She's super happy. She texts her friend saying, "My mum has finally filed for divorce. I couldn't be more excited. He needs to go." Whilst they're all staying at Tasha's mother's, and I believe they stay there for roughly a week, Michael keeps arriving and asking Tasha to go for a drive with him and let's make up, etc., etc. Tasha feels very, very scared. She doesn't feel safe around this man at all. At this point, Michael is still living in the family home, and around December the 30th, this is when we get some very odd Google searches. So he searches things like, is a 9mm gun louder than a 40mm gun? If you heard gunshot at a neighbour's house, would you immediately call the police? He makes multiple searches around this kind of topic, which is incredibly odd and scary. The next day, on the 31st, the family return, and despite the attorney's advice, Michael is not leaving this house. It's believed he's actually sleeping in the basement in a sleep sack. His eldest daughter texts a friend around this time again and says, basically her dad is trying to love bomb her. He's really annoying and he just needs to go. This is a family that have just put up with so much. The mum has finally filed for divorce and that's it. They want to be free. They want to just get their lives back and get rid of this man that makes them feel very tense in the home. And they have suffered a lot of manipulation and controlling behaviour from him. He is refusing to leave though, and the next day on January the 1st, they all attend church. Tasha, however, is very adamant that Michael is not allowed to sit with them. This makes him incredibly angry. This is a man that prides himself on public image, and everyone then witnessing him being in another aisle to his family does not look good. Gail, Tasha's mother, has actually moved in with them, mainly I believe for safety reasons. They do not feel safe around Michael and they want another adult there. So she is living with them at the time. Now on January the 2nd, Michael starts removing all the guns from the house, which really worries Tasha. These are actually her guns that she inherited from her father, and it leaves the family very, very vulnerable. She orders him to bring them back, and I think she actually contacts an attorney who also orders him to bring them back, but he never does. In early January, this is when Michael starts doing these recordings. Now, some of them are secretive on his phone, so Tasha doesn't know that he's doing them. Some of them are just on the camera out in the open and the family know he's recording. But from these recordings, we can see how controlling he can be. At one point, he is very tearful. He's pleading with Tasha to try and save their marriage. He says he's going to go to 20 counsellors to resolve this issue. She is adamant. She's had enough. She wants to go. She wants freedom from him. She wants financial freedom. She wants independence. She makes it very clear that she doesn't feel safe around this man. The children don't feel safe around this man. They are not happy with him being there. She says that she would love for this to be more amicable if he just moved out, but he's the one that's refused to move out and chosen to go down this legal route. At other smaller points, Michael kind of swings in the other direction and tries to blame Tasha for their bad relationship. He's also very preoccupied with, if he leaves, how much child support is he going to have to pay? So he's very money orientated and controlling around that. Tasha also brings up how they live well below their means. He gives her hardly any budget at all to live off of. And she just doesn't want to be controlled in that way anymore. She doesn't want to have a measly allowance. She doesn't want to be told where she can spend her money or not. She wants to just be free. That evening on one of the recordings, Michael is heard saying, "I feel like you're backing me into a corner." Later in that evening, he texts Tasha to say, "Can we sort this out?" And there is no response. At 3:30 a.m. on January the 4th, neighbours hear gunshots coming from the Haight family's home. They actually get a little bit annoyed because they believe it's fireworks. Remember, this is January the 4th, so it's around New Year's time, and they're like, this is past the curfew for fireworks. Why are fireworks going off? So they don't report anything, but that's when they hear it. Now later on January the 4th, Tasha misses an appointment, and this raises alarms, especially with some friends, as she's not answering her phone. So they ask police to do a wellness check. Police turn up, the home is quiet and locked. They don't see any disturbances, so they leave. At around 1:50 p.m. that day, another wellness check is requested. And this person says that Michael Haight has not been acting right for weeks. The police turn up again around 2 p.m. and again they can't get in, there doesn't seem to be any disturbances, and so they leave. They do go on to ring one of the schools that one of the children attend. I think it's the youngest child, Gavin, and the school say that Gavin has not turned up that day and there's no excuse for it. The parents haven't rung to say he's ill or anything. At 3:50 p.m, a very concerned family friend enters the home through one of the doors, and on entering and looking around, suddenly sees a body. They immediately retreat and call the police. At 4 p.m, the police do turn up and find the bodies of 3 adults and 5 children. They find 4-year-old Gavin with his mother, Tasha, and her mother, Gail Earl, in the master bedroom. Most of the other children, Macy, Briley and Sienna, are on their beds with bedding over them. 7-year-old Ammon is actually on the floor of a bedroom in a sleeping bag, and they find Michael Haight in the basement It is very evident that he has committed suicide and most probably has killed the rest of his family. The next day, January the 5th, is when the caseworker was due to turn up. Now, in the aftermath of this completely shocked the local community. This was a family that was very involved, very well known, very well liked, especially Tasha. She had a lot of friends and would do anything for them. The victims were all buried within the same service. Michael, the father, was not mentioned, and he had a separate private service. The bizarre thing about this is an obituary came out about Michael, describing him as a devoted, loving father who led a life of service to his family and community. It said that he made a point to spend quality time with his children, and his main aim was to make memories for his family. This sparked outrage and was removed very quickly. Who wrote it, we don't know. We can only guess it was a member of Michael's family. Regardless of how he was prior to 2017, when the abusive claims began, this man killed his entire family, taking 7 innocent lives. I don't believe an obituary like this should have been written or published. Michael actually wrote a suicide note stating that he would rather rot in hell than spend another day with his manipulative wife. He's trying to pin the blame on her and change the narrative to probably save face and upkeep this public image that he so desires. It's just another example of how controlling and manipulative he could be, and how in many ways the way he is perceived was more important than what was actually happening in his family home. This case is quite recent, but I just wanted to bring it to light to show that these things can happen. This family from the outside had this perfect kind of facade. I will put a link in the caption below for a website in the UK for domestic abuse. If you made it this far, thank you so much for watching. My name's Emma. This has been the case of the Haight family. If you like my content, subscribe and comment, and I'll see you in the next one.